When the class of 2020 moves beyond the halls of high school, what they leave behind will last for generations in the leadership, triumphs, and motivations passed on to underclassmen. One of the greatest accomplishments in life might be summed up in leaving a place better than you found it. In this episode of Senior Spotlight, we travel to Lincoln High School, where there's no question about the legacy one senior will leave behind, because her mark will be seen and felt forever. A newsletter, a parade, a tree, and a new school currently under construction on the east side of Sioux Falls all have one important thing in common, or rather, one important person in common.
I met Delilah. She was just one of my students that came in the freshman year as I was working at Lincoln, and she was a typical Native American kid that was in one of my classes. Native American Connections is Native American history and culture taught about the Oceti-Sakowin only, and erroneously called the Sioux Nation, but it is strictly a curriculum built about the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota people that lived here in South Dakota for thousands of years.
Delilah Rouse is originally from Wagner, South Dakota. When she began as a freshman at Lincoln, she was trying to find her place.
When you're Native, you're obligated to live in two worlds. Because as soon as you get home, you know, you're saying cousin, grandma, unchi, and all this, and then here you're like, you're raising your hand to speak. And personally, I felt like I wasn't being listened to. You know, I felt kind of discouraged sometimes because I'm a shy person at first, but like once you get to know me, I'm outgoing. And my freshman year, I was embarrassed to be Native American. I just wanted to be white so bad. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to do all these things. I wanted the teachers to like call on me every time, you know, and just go Delilah and stuff like that. And I never had that like the other students did. And I started looking around and noticing that we never had a voice here. I've never heard I didn't hear any, you know, Native American kid or upperclassman, you know, a couple of my friends that graduated years before me too, you know, feeling the same way.
But rather than blend into the background or wait for a voice to come along, she decided to become the voice.
I didn't want, especially my sisters, to feel the same way I did my freshman year. I didn't want to feel lost, discouraged, and stuff from, you know, not being able to be comfortable to raise my hand, to share my story, you know, because a lot of us people don't talk about our past, and that's what I wanted to talk about. That there's a past that makes a future, and we have to honor that past in order to recognize who we are going to be in the future. I just felt like there's not a lot of people listening to us. This is the history you don't know about that shapes us kids, that shapes us boys and girls, those who skip, those who mouth back, those who don't talk to you, those who don't look at you in the eyes, you know. This is why we act the way we do. You know, history is in patterns, so I wanted to share that, you know. And especially that no one's aware too about our history. It's not taught. If you look in all our textbooks, our history isn't taught. You know, the only chief we know is Sitting Bull, you know, but what about Chief Joseph, Red Cloud, Crazy Horse? We didn't hear about them.
She quickly earned a reputation at Lincoln High School for her voice.
Delilah writes poetry that comes from the heart. She encourages all kids, not just Native kids, but all kids, to learn about her culture, to learn about the people before European contact, not to equate stereotypes to Native American people, but to understand Native American people. But she's also there for all cultures. It doesn't matter if it's the dominant culture or if it's another race of kids. She really, really reaches out to all kids, and I think that's a huge strength.
She's a memorable student. She may not be the person who gets the straight A 100%, but she puts herself into her work, and I think that's what makes her really special. I know Delilah to be the person who will give side hugs to anyone who needs it. She is very compassionate and passionate. I know that she has this wonderful, quiet strength about her. She's not the boisterous one in the room, but she might just be the strongest person in the room. She is resilient. She perseveres. She shows grit every day. And I think that she fosters that in other people and the people around her too. She brings her voice, and what's really special about Delilah is the way that she encourages other people to bring their voices to the forefront too. And for me as a teacher, she is the epitome of engagement. We talk a lot about engagement, about how we want our students to be engaged in our schools, in our communities. They're engaged with the content that we're teaching. And she really delivers on that. She sees engagement as connectedness, and she believes and encourages others to believe that we are all connected. And there's incredible power in that.
Yeah, she's very much a leader, and I think one of the real strengths with Delilah is a lot of Native American people are quiet, but they have, I think, very similar thoughts to what Delilah has, but Delilah will vocalize them. And I think that's been a real strength, and I think that's been a real big leadership for other students in our building. I think it gives them confidence, and I know that some kids have been more vocal because of what Delilah has done, and it also has brought, the students are more cohesive and have brought them together, I think, in a really good way.
Naturally, it wouldn't take long for her voice to be heard beyond the walls of Lincoln High School. Her first bigger impact came in the form of an ongoing project that's already gained statewide notice.
I think the first really big thing that happened is when in her sophomore year, and we just had a great group of kids that really jumped on the bandwagon with Delilah, but they were pretty demanding that we do something bigger than just our classroom, that we get out information about the culture to the masses. And so what we did was we created a newsletter, and that newsletter really did a nice job of explaining culture and history and Lakota words and teaches wisdoms, a lot of interviews with people, and Delilah was certainly the pusher and the puller in that. And it went so well that across the state, it kind of flew across the state where we got many requests, and then we took it a step further and they presented. And when they presented at the Indian Ed Summit in South Dakota, it was just a phenomenal thing to watch the students do. And many of them, the people in the crowd was just awed by what the kids had accomplished and wanted a lot of information. And our kids were very vulnerable. And some of them cried and some of them didn't. And it was just a really good thing for them, for those students to get up in front of a large group of people twice and present at such a big event.
That was as a sophomore, where she's seen here presenting that newsletter to the school board.
Hello everyone, I'm Delilah. I'm a sophomore at Lincoln, and I am from Yankton Sioux, and I write the poetry in the newsletter. One of our topics in this was the boarding schools, like Louisa said, and I wrote a poem called Lost Children. And if you
As a junior, her contributions to Lincoln, to the Native American community, to the school district, and to Sioux Falls continued to add up.
The second thing that happened, I think, that was really big, it was the first Native American Day Parade. And I went in and asked Mr. Grimm at the time, could we interfloat in that parade? And he said, absolutely. So, Delilah was on top of that, and she brought in a whole bunch of kids that were just so excited about that. And we worked on that, and there was a category for things that you wanted to meet, the levels you wanted to meet, and who would win the all-around prize. And fortunately for us, we did, and that really excited them. But we had the sacred tree was donated by Oak Ridge Nursery from Brandon, and the cottonwood tree was on that float. And then the administration allowed the kids to plant that tree right out in front of Lincoln High School. And they call the tree Mesincula, and that's their little brother. And frequently the students will go out and they'll pay tribute to their little brother, and they'll see how he's doing. And I think that brought another big recognition to the community of kids in Lincoln High School that things were changing, and our Native kids were starting to bring about a change.
And then we did the Native American parade. The first year was last year, and we won first place. Our whole backdrop was the origin story of how the earth was created, how the sun and moon was created, and how, you know, the rocks formed and how us people lived. And one thing that we have is the tree outside, the cottonwood tree. It's a big entity in our spiritual world. That cotton tree is we call it a boy, a man spirit, a guy spirit that inhabits and listens to our prayers. And one of the ceremonies we have is Sundance, and the tree sits right in the middle of the arbor, and we pray to him. And when we lay him down, he goes to Creator, you know, or God, and carries our prayers with him. And he's a big sacrifice because he chooses. So that tree out there signifies that we're here, he's here. And it's an honor to have him. And I'm grateful that Lincoln allowed him. And it really means a lot to us too.
That wasn't all. When Lincoln High School created a video for incoming freshmen about the courses available to them, Delilah was the spokesperson for the Native American Connections program, and coincidentally, the only student interviewed for this video.
Hey guys, I'm Delilah Rouse. I'm a junior at LHS, and I've taken NAC 1, 2, and Lakota 1 and 2.
Simultaneously, inside the classroom, she was making decisions that would have lasting impressions on her classmates.
I've had the privilege of having Delilah twice in class. First as a sophomore in Accelerated English 2, and then secondly last year in Teacher Pathway. And last year was the first year of that course in the Sioux Falls School District. And so she's among that flagship class, the vanguard of that class. And that was just a really wonderful way to see her. And I think she sees herself, and I see her as a teacher. I see her as a servant teacher, and I think that's how she sees herself too. Early in the year, last year, one of our first units is on the history of education, and so Delilah and her partner looked at boarding schools, Indian boarding schools, and shared that with our class. And for our entire class, me included, I learned so much from her. And it was from that presentation that she said, you know, Mrs. Clavon, we need to go there. And so she was the one who said, let's go. Let's go visit the Marty Indian School. So we were able to take a field trip with the Teacher Pathway students and visit and connect with an educational experience that's totally different from what we know at Lincoln High School. And I think that's totally Delilah. Like, let's go. That's kind of her mentality. Like, let's go do something, you know? She's willing to be the leader, to be the person to go in and make change.
We just jumped in the bus and went down there and met with a couple of the kids, had lunch, and just learned what it was like for teachers down there, you know, how they used to drive hours just to get to school and back and forth just to teach these kids. And one thing I wanted to go to Marty too was just to get this atmosphere that, like, you know, there's different personalities of Native American kids. There's different upbringings that we have, lifestyles. And, you know, one thing about Marty is they're culturally aware too, but they're silent also. So I was just hoping to, you know, see how things are going, and it was really good for us.
Then, a new opportunity to shine.
The school district needs to open a couple of schools. And so they're, you know, put out in a committee, what are we going to name the schools? Well, Delilah was invited to sit on the committee to name the middle school, and she presented at the board, she presented to the movers and the shakers of the school district, And they did decide on a Native American Ben Rifle Middle School, and that was really exciting.
I was thinking of Ben Rifle because I've heard I wanted to go into politics and stuff, and you know, he was the first one I found too, first Native American, especially from Rosebud, you know, around that area. And now it's Ben Rifle Middle School, and I'm really proud too. And I hope the kids learn what to research, and I hope that school, Ben Rifle, I hope everyone just researches and is like, who's Ben? Who's Ben? Because back home, he's Grandpa Ben to all of us.
Delilah was at the January press conference when the name was announced, seated next to the assistant superintendent and school board members.
So I feel like this will help not only myself, but the future generations who will come into the Sioux Falls School District to remember that they are sacred and they are welcomed with open arms in the Sioux Falls School District, with a good heart to pursue education and to make a good life for themselves and their children.
Honestly, it's kind of shocking that like people want to hear me and like they just want, you know, my opinions, and like, because like I said, I went from this embarrassed, shy little girl to like, hey guys, we got to do this, we got to do that, and like having, you know, I felt honored. You know, I wanted to cry all the time. I'm just like, why me, Delilah? You know, there's like 34 other kids they could have picked, and then I realized, you know, like I had to take in all the dedication I put into making a voice for the school. So when I was at that conference, you know, announcing the name and stuff, I was just like, we really did this. I really did this, and we really did this, and it made me feel content with everything, because after, you know, hundreds of years, we finally have a name to our color, to our skin, to our faces.
Especially when you get a school named for a Native American, and you know, that's a big deal here in Sioux Falls. That will never go away. But all of the other things that she's done, it's like she has a following, and the kids follow her, and when she walks into the classroom, the kids are always, hi Delilah, you know, even the younger ones, they want to talk to her and stuff. They want to be a part of that energy, I think.
Again, as a junior, she stepped up at this Native American graduation ceremony last year to present a star quilt to then Principal Robert Grimm. As you'd expect, her leadership and giving continues this year, like at the second annual Native American Day Parade on October 14th, 2019. And her incredible impact is already rubbing off.
We have some definite strength coming up behind her. You know, some of those younger kids, we're writing another newsletter now, and it's by our freshman kids, and that's going really well. We'll have one out in November shortly, and then the December newsletter is almost, a lot of pieces of that is already in place, and we're seeing some real strengths from several of our girls, and several of the guys, which is really exciting. Some of the girls have just really hopped on that newsletter, are doing great with it, really involved. It's going to be a great newsletter, and the themes and the editorials are excellent. And seeing the old newsletters and knowing Delilah was a huge part of that, I think has made the momentum of that, you know, we want to do it well. Maybe we want to do it better. So that's a lot of fun. I expect we'll see some of Delilah's work in those newsletters because of her excellent poetry and her thoughts. So I really expect that we'll see that.
I hope that younger students see in Delilah the opportunity and the joy and the potential that comes from stepping up and rising up and showing others the way. I know that legacy will live on after Delilah graduates from Lincoln High School.
Unsurprisingly, in addition to internships, pre-calculus, and other courses she's taking to prepare for college, she also spends her win time at Lincoln, what's important now, with younger students and helping to keep them on track.
She'll come into the classroom and she'll go by and see what students are doing, and she'll say, you know, do you need help with this? And, you know, yeah, I know how to do that math. I can help you with that.
You know, just being around those, you know, those kids just makes me happy, and like, I just want them to know like I'm here for them. Except their geometry homework, I don't remember anything of that, but I'll be there for them. So I usually just sit my time, and my sister's in there, so I have to make sure she's on top of things. And I usually go around and check on all of them, and I'm like a mom to all of them. Yeah.
Just like stepping up to be a voice for the voiceless, she's become a mom to these students, which is something she had to learn on her own.
I never had a mother figure growing up, but like I said, me feeling like, you know, like alone, you know, without a mom, I was just like, I don't want these kids to feel it. I feel like that's my biggest motto is, if you felt it and you don't like it, then don't let others feel it. Don't, you know, like how treat others how you want to be treated, that whole thing is mine. Because like, I know what it's like to be without a mom, you know, or a dad, so why not be there for them? And instead of making a negative connotation about, you know, being motherless, being fatherless, you know, put yourself in the shoes and try to be that. And I naturally feel like I have mom instincts too, because, you know, I grew up around all my cousins, and I'm the oldest one, and I'm the oldest sibling, so it just naturally carries.
But she's hoping to inspire all those who come after her to expect to be better.
Freshman year is embarrassed of, you know, where I came from, but I feel like my past, you know, like having a mom who wasn't there, you know, having a dad wasn't there, was another route of trauma, but a different path. You know, we chose different paths. Like I always say to my dad and them too, like when we were talking, you know, like we went through the same exact thing. You know, history repeated itself, you know, from all the drugs that go through our community, all the alcohol that go in our community, all the abuse. But I chose a different route than you. Instead of drowning myself in my problems and, you know, trying to have pity for myself, I put that pity in my heart and then just moved on, because I don't want to feel alone like I did freshman year. I don't want to feel discouraged. I wanted people to know, like, hey man, you could do it. You could do it, with or without anyone's help. But like I said, the Native American community, especially me too, it's a big part in who I am. And I just strongly advocate for kids who feel the same way too, because like I said, we had no voice. And like, we all go through that too. As much as we don't want to talk about it, we all go through that. And like, that's one thing that makes us too, is our system of parenting and our system of trauma and like how we handle it. It exists in us. It's in our DNA, but I don't want it to be in my kids' DNA where they feel left out from me, and they feel left out from their siblings, and they feel left out from the community and the town and the city and the state. I don't want them to feel that. So I'm hoping to break this cycle, because we are the 7th generation, and this is like a time for change.
As she moves on to college next year, she'll leave so many growing, flourishing legacies in her wake, it may seem like she hasn't left. But she has a message for the underclassmen who must take her place.
I hope that they remember that it's always going to be a battle, you know? My grandfather used to always say it's a good day to die. And I didn't take that, you know, like physically, you know, like we're going to die. What he meant was it's a good day to fight for your rights. You know, fight for your freedom, fight for your voice. And it's hard. It's hard in high school. It's really, you know, especially when, you know, you have no motivation, when you bring your home life to school and stuff. But I just hope that these kids know that that they have a voice and they need to use it. Because if we don't have our voice, we won't ever bring change. We won't ever bring growth to a school. And that, you know, there's more that needs to be done, and that we all need to unite as one, is what I stress, you know, Ndakwe Yasun, is we're all related. We can't be diverse as we were, you know, in groups and cliques and stuff. We need to be all as one, because it takes a community to raise one child. For like my little group of, you know, kids that are my age, I feel like I've done what I had to do. You know, I've done what I had to do for the older generations above me. For my younger siblings, I feel like they could take it up a notch, but I feel like I gave them that shove to keep going, keep walking. And I personally feel like there could be more done, but I'm really happy with what happened. And I know there's going to be more after this too.
Everyone who knows her is begging her to come back after college and help build on the incredible momentum that she's created.
She's going on to college. At this point, she feels like she's going to go to Durango College. She wants to major at this point in social work, which I think she'll do a great job in. However, this teacher is pushing her to be a speaker. And I'm hoping that she will at least look at a double major maybe, perhaps in journalism and public speaking, because she does such a nice job speaking in the public eye. And she's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in, and she always does it though in a good way. She doesn't go out there and accuse people of being racist, or she just doesn't do that stuff. She does the things that needs to be done in the way it needs to be done professionally, where it will get people on board instead of pushing them away. I absolutely see Delilah going away to experience the world, getting a little further away from Sioux Falls and whatever, so she has that opportunity to experience the world a little bit. But I really believe Delilah will come back to her people and find herself in an environment, whether it's globally, whether it is statewide, that she will somehow land herself in a situation where she will continue to promote her people and her culture, and I don't think she'll ever stop. I think she'll pull all of that together and become that person that says, I got a big job in front of me, and I'm ready and capable of doing that job, and I believe she'll do it.
I did bring a piece from her last portfolio from Teacher Pathway, and so this is part of her final reflection. This semester really opened my eyes to the possibility of education. I've decided that on my journey in life, I do want to be a teacher that will lead her kids to awareness of diversity in the community, the different lifestyles we all live, and the unity that we need. I want to be a teacher who will impact students to do better for themselves when they have no one else to look up to. I want to be a teacher who excites the mind with wisdom and knowledge. I have the courage to look forward to the future with bravery, to ask what I need, and it starts with me. So I think that like summarizes Delilah. I see her as a teacher, and I think she sees herself in that way too. It is so gratifying and so affirming and so amazingly wonderful to see our students as what they could become. And then for them to see that too. You know, teaching is such a paradox. It's this personal and political act at the same time. And, you know, you build these great positive relationships with our students, and sometimes they're the ones to lift us up, and sometimes we lift them up. And Delilah lifts up everyone around her.
It's an exciting time. I've been doing this for 19 years, and this is the most hopeful I've ever been, that our kids are taking seriously showing off the culture.
And I really hope that she comes back and teaches in the Sioux Falls School District, because I know how many thousands upon thousands of lives will be impacted by her.
I think the greatest thing that Delilah has going for her is her passion. I think her passion is the force behind her movement, is she feels so strongly that she uses that passion to motivate her, to push her. And honestly, if you do anything really well, I think you have to have passion, and she has that passion. I am just thankful. I am thankful that my path and Delilah's path has crossed, that I was the one given the opportunity to have such a dynamic young lady in my classroom.